Today, I am joined by founder and CEO of AvocadoAudio.com. He is the host of the podcast Tech in Chicago. Cannot wait to get into today's conversation with Mr. Colin Keeley. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
It is my pleasure. So, we've got a lot of different things to talk about, but I want to start with Avocado Audio, which is essentially an audio platform to help teach people, to help people learn. And quite frankly, in today's day and age, I think that is one of the most important things that we can be talking about is how to learn, how to keep up. The world is evolving quickly. So, let me ask you this, Colin, to start. How did you get the idea and the vision for Avocado Audio?
So there's kind of two different sides to that. There's the opportunity and then just like the passion for the idea. So on the opportunity front, I've been a podcaster for 4 years or so. I was looking at how do you 10x the audio market, and I decided that monetization was where audio lagged the furthest behind. Right now, podcasts monetize about a tenth as well as radio, which is kind of absurd because it's internet radio targeting, and everything should be significantly better. And I decided the way to do that was to break outside of the podcast bucket. So with video, you can record a few hours of video and charge $1,000 for it. Because there's an ROI there. If you call it a course, there's some return on investment there. And there's no equivalent in the US for that for audio. And we wanted to bring that over. And then just personally, I don't think the future has us staring at screens 10 hours a day. I think it's kind of ridiculous. So we're just this weird moment in time where we're doing this.
So that's an interesting.
So I, yeah,
That's definitely an
go ahead.
interesting thought because right now video is king. But to your point, I spend a lot of time actually listening to content because I just don't have time
Mhm.
typically to watch video. So if I'm running or driving, I can just listen to something. Quite frankly, most of my YouTube consumption is without even actually looking at the screen. So I agree with you there. But let's kind of dive in and kind of delve in a little bit more deeply into one of your assertions here that you're trying to find different ways to kind of monetize the audio platform. What differentiates what you're doing with Avocado Audio from a traditional podcast?
Yeah, courses, the biggest difference between podcasts and courses is the structure. So all the information is out there for the most part, but you want to structure it, you want to make it bite sized, you want to reward people's time investment. So we are way more focused on being as short as possible. We try to chop up all our lessons to be like 2 to 8 minutes long. The average course is probably 30 minutes to 2 hours. So with podcasts, you're actually rewarded for length. If you're monetizing with advertising, like Joe Rogan, as we were talking about earlier, his podcasts are like 3 hours long, and then you could smash in way more advertising than you could ever with a course. And so we align more with the actual listener and their goals.
That's interesting. And, as someone who's very busy juggling a ton of different things from kids to primary job to side job to exercise and health, life is busy. So, any way
Yeah.
we can condense topics like learning and things of that nature is super important. But I guess the question I would have for you is what would someone expect to learn on a platform like Avocado Audio? And how do you condense that into a sub 10-minute course? How does that work? How does that look?
So the average course is around 30 minutes to 2 hours. So
Okay.
we try
Okay.
to do bite-sized lessons. So you could fit it in more different times during your day. So walking around, doing chores, doing laundry or something like that. What was your initial question? I got sidetracked there.
Well, yeah. So, what kind of teaching, what kind of
Oh,
lessons are
what
we
we
learning? Are we
learn.
learning how to cook? Are we learning how to build a website? What does someone expect to learn on your platform?
Yeah, we target mostly the business niche. So some of our most popular courses are around digital marketing. Copywriting is actually really popular. Personal development, wellness, some leadership stuff, kind of all over the place. It's an open platform, and then we curate the best stuff to the top.
Cool. So we learned how to build a business with Avocado Audio, essentially, right? You've got
Mhm.
the entire course is about 2 hours long, but you're breaking down the learning modules, if you would, into shorter excerpts. I'm kind of curious. One of the biggest problems I have with podcasting is there's a severe lack of engagement, right? Typically, when I listen to an episode, there's no way for me to go in and post, and it's like I listen to it and I'm done. So,
Mhm.
how are you resolving that problem with Avocado? How are you keeping people engaged in the platform so they keep coming back, they engage with the community, they're actually walking away with something actionable.
So the biggest problem with most online courses and kind of the dirty secret is the completion rate is
Right.
like sub 5%. It's mostly aspirational selling, like people want to learn something and then they actually never do it. So the completion rate with audio courses is massively higher because people have significantly more learning time, audio time in their day than they have sitting in front of a screen time. Then how are we keeping people engaged? I think content is the most important. So we're most focused on producing the best courses and bringing the best courses onto the platform. We have community features as well, but that's not like it works if you're walking around and it works if you're seated or something and listening to it and could actually interact with your phone. But most people are doing this when they're like doing something else. It's a secondary activity. So it's like a secondary feature or app, the community focus.
Okay, interesting. So most of the time with audio courses, I want to talk a little bit about monetization. Most of the time with audio and podcasting, you're looking at AdSense and CPM and affiliate
Mhm.
marketing and these various tactics. Digital courses as well as kind of like a segue or a pivot into digital products. Your company kind of takes this to the next level, right? So with Avocado Audio, you are just going straight to the digital course in audio, which again is something that's a little bit interesting. Honestly, it's quite innovative because most time I think of digital course, I'm thinking of video courses. Okay. Could you expand on how you monetize and how you generate revenue for your company via this business model?
So we initially launched with a pure one-off marketplace. So if you wanted to produce a course, you put it up there, you'd have to drive all the traffic yourself, and then you take home the vast majority of the revenue. So we actually got a bunch of feedback saying, $25 to $50 to $100 is way too much for an audio course. People aren't accustomed to paying that, but they wanted a subscription. They wanted to jump around. They wanted to taste different courses. So we pivoted, and now it's free for a week, and then it's $15 a month or $100 a year, and it's all you could eat. And then we split the revenue with the course creators based on listens that they get. So more like a Medium or Spotify paying out based on consumption.
That's interesting. That's interesting. So you kind of brought up something that I definitely wanted to touch on, and that's how you actually get the courses for your platform. Because typically when I think of an online course, I'm thinking of you've got a creator who's creating a course, who's driving traffic to that course, but yours operates a little bit differently because you don't actually make the courses, you outsource the courses. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, we have a network of creators.
So how do you build
So
up that network of creators so that you're bringing on good creators to actually bring in good content? Because let's face it, we live in the age of mass misinformation. How do you bring on great
yeah.
creators and make sure that the quality of the content is up to par?
One by one. So initially, it was a lot of work. It was a lot of Zoom calls convincing people that we're a real thing. We haven't launched yet, but this is going to be a way to make money in the future. Um, so you could look at, and when you're trying to get a marketplace off the ground, you could often find big existing marketplaces. And so we looked at those. We found their best content, and then we had someone in the Philippines grab all their email addresses, and then I would cold outreach them. And so a lot of cold outbound, and you just kind of scrape the cream, the best parts of other marketplaces and bring them over to yours. And then it's a flywheel. So as it gets going, as we get more subscribers, our creators are making more money. They see us as a good revenue source. And then now we're starting to get more novel content where people are recording specifically just for Avocado.
That's very interesting. I mean, I think with any startup, any new business, you're putting in that after hours execution. You're working, you're grinding, you're bleeding out of your eyeballs. I mean, nothing comes for free. As someone who's in the tech business and been in the business for a long time, you get that, you understand that nothing comes for free. Have there ever been a time where someone came onto the platform, created a course, and you're like, this is crap, we got to take it down, or is that something that's happened?
Yeah. So we have a minimum bar. So we definitely turn down courses that are bad. And then above that bar, we let a lot of stuff on and we'll rate it on our back end and decide how much we want to promote it based on how good it is. We haven't yet, but we're going to start sending a course feedback card to the creators
Mhm.
and say your sound quality is really good, your content could be better, it's kind of meandering, it's a little too long, and give people feedback so they can improve and continue to get the course better and hopefully make more money on Avocado.
Okay. Okay. I like that. How do you promote your creators? So let's say, for example, I'm interested in being an audio creator, what's my expectation with your company and how would you promote the content that I'm producing for the company?
So the biggest promotion in the app is on the collections play page. So we curate courses into basically curriculums. So we'll have like 5 courses on copywriting, for example,
Mhm.
and it'll be from beginner to more advanced. And then outside of that, promoting on social media, we're recording like little segments with each of our creators, like a mini podcast is a way to promote naturally. And then, I'm going on a podcast tour, which is one of these that we're doing right now. So just trying to build up the platform as well.
Yeah, so and I think that so this is like the kind of the dirty unknown secret that a lot of podcasters and audio people don't understand is one of the best ways to promote your audio platform is through that same medium, right? It's through being on podcasts, it's through people hearing your voice and hearing your message. Listen, if you're a podcaster out there, you got to start getting on other podcasts. It's a very
Yeah.
powerful way to drive traffic to your show. How else? What other strategies are you executing on, Colin, to drive awareness to the marketplace for what you offer at Avocado Audio?
So the nice thing with the pivot to subscription is so it's recurring revenue now. It's way easier to put paid marketing dollars behind. So we're doing all the different paid channels, and that's been
Mm.
pretty effective for us as well.
So when you say paid channels, are you going through influencers? Are you doing banner ads? Are you doing like how exactly are you
So
looking to drive that
actually,
traffic?
um, for apps, the most effective is actually Apple search ads. It's around half the cost of like Facebook or Google. So that's where we started. You scale that up into a point, and then it kind of tops off. And now we're doing more Facebook ads.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the people that I work with they start with the Facebook or they start with the YouTube pre-roll and that sort of thing. So that the Apple app is an interesting way to go.
There isn't that much volume there. That's the issue. So once you start spending like up to $10,000 a month, you have to graduate to somewhere else.
Mm,
But it's kind of a messy setup with Apple where you could bid on competitors' keywords and just show up in that first spot. Like you probably shouldn't do that. You can't do that in Google often,
yeah.
but Apple allows it still.
Well, one of the things that Gary V is always harping on is it doesn't need to be the best platform, but if as long as you're getting an ROI, then it doesn't really matter, right? So I think that just kind of tasting and executing on different channels, different areas is really important. If you get so caught up with I just have to do Facebook ads, well, you might be missing out on the Instagram story ads or that now they just launched Reels. I don't know how that's going to play out. We will definitely see there. So, I mean, this is definitely very interesting to me, and I'm kind of curious. As the host of a podcast yourself, Colin, Tech in Chicago, how is that platform, your podcast platform, how has that transitioned you and allowed you to execute on programs and companies like Avocado Audio?
So the biggest value in the podcast was not like the audience, I would say. It's not the distribution as much as the network I created with
Mm,
all the guests that I had on. So why I launched it initially was just like a networking machine. So I moved to Chicago, I was into tech. You show up with 2 microphones, you could talk to anyone in the city and have an hour with them. So that was very effective. Now I have like a large network of CEOs that I could lean on if I have questions or anyone in the city that I could possibly ask for a question.
yeah, I'm with you there. I think that's something that people tend to minimize. I think that the more people you know and build in your network, the better. And I mean, I've had the opportunity via podcast to link up with professional athletes, presidential candidates, multi-million dollar CEOs and founders. And I think that people a lot of times get into podcasting because they want to get rich and quit their day job. But the real value, I think, is that connection and ability to build up your network. But also as someone who's in the audio space, you understand that it also gives you opportunity to really connect with your listeners on a deeper level than say an Instagram picture of yourself in front of a car might make, you know?
Yeah.
Tell me a story. Give me something interesting here, Colin. A time where you sat down with a founder and you walked away thinking like, wow, this is just a ton of value. I met with someone I never would have had the opportunity to meet with before podcasting.
So one of our, hmm, I've had people on the podcast that have sold companies for, well over $1 billion. That's not the most interesting one to me. Like the most interesting one I had on is I'm really into sleep. So I like am non-functional if I don't get my 8 hours of sleep. And I had on this guy who does sleep coaching. It's a tech platform that does sleep coaching for professional athletes. So that was probably the coolest one, the one that I most enjoyed, and is not like a famous startup in any sense. Rise Science is the name of it.
Mhm.
Jeff Kahn is the founder. That was a really cool one. That was a cool experience. We did the whole podcast in the Cards Against Humanity office as well, which is just like a bunch of train cars. It's just a bit of a surreal experience.
That's very, very cool. Very cool. Okay, so we've talked about how you're getting teachers. We talked a little bit about how you're getting students to your platform. Where do you see the future of Avocado Audio going? Where are you trying to level up as you look at the market? You're involved in tech. Where do you see the future of your audio teaching platform going?
I would love to unlock. I think there's just billions of hours of listening time that are trapped in this. People have so much more listening time than they have sitting in front of a screen time. So if we could change people's lives, let them learn a lot more than they are currently learning, that would be the goal going forward. As a business, we're doing not a pivot, but we're going to start selling to enterprises more. There's a big demand for these L&D platforms, and the consumption rate, like the success rate, is just so low.
Mm.
It's pretty easy for us to prove out that if you use avocado instead, you have a much higher completion rate. So
So
that is probably where we're going to be heading.
so let's talk about that more. Completion rate is really important because if someone buys your course, they drop out after one episode, that's not good for your business long term, right? So, what is it about what you're doing with Avocado that is keeping people on the platform and actually completing the courses? What's keeping people there, do you think?
It's the medium to some extent, and then the way courses are produced. So we want to be inspiring as well as just educational. And audio is just a very powerful medium, as you know, being a podcaster.
Hmm.
And so we have the spoken word has been around for like 100,000 years. The written word has only been around for 5,000 years. And then screens have only been around for 100 years. So to me, we're just going back to our roots. And I think it's just a weird moment in time where we're staring at screens too much.
Sure. And I'm also curious, like in a typical education, a typical schooling, you're going to school, you're going to lecture, you're doing your homework, and then you're taking a test. That is the measure of your success. How do you
Mhm.
actually measure success? Because great, I listened to 2 hours of audio, but am I actually learning anything? Is there any way? How are you actually gauging and challenging your students to actually walk away with something that's actionable?
So this is up to our creators. A lot of them at the end of a lesson or a few lessons will have some deliverable that they want the listener to perform. So it's up to them to do it. Some people do it, some do not. But that is the way to kind of the prove you learned something and feel like you got something out of it.
Yeah, I think that's important because I can listen to a again hour long Mulligan Brothers YouTube video that's very inspirational. I feel fired up, and then by the time I
Yeah.
actually get to the office, or by the time I'm actually ready to execute, I'm like, I lost that. So to me, I think that's the biggest challenge that we have in education is not only teaching something that's valuable, but like you said, make sure that the completion rate actually translates into specific learning. That's something I really try to do on this show is try to give people something they can walk away saying, okay, there are two tips that I can walk away from this and I can actually execute. I can actually bring to my business. I'm curious on your side, Colin, how did you get to where you're at today as far as education goes? You have college degree? Do you do like what's your platform for continuous learning?
So I went to undergraduate. I went to McAllister College in Minnesota. I was pretty anti grad school, and then I started the podcast. And most of the top entrepreneurs and venture capitalists in Chicago went to Booth or Kellogg. And so I held out as long as I could, and then I eventually caved, and I ended up going to Booth and graduated last year. I think it was worthwhile. I'm happy where I ended up. And then continuous learning. I do a lot of voice to text, so I read a lot of very long blog posts. You swipe down on your phone, and you get the voice Alex in your ear. So I do a lot of hacks around like what I wish audio learning existed, and then naturally started Avocado Audio to feel like what I should exist in the world.
Very cool. And you're actually a co-founder of Avocado Audio. It's not just your sole platform. I'm wondering, what did you look for and how did you link up with your partner or partners in this project?
So Brent Sanders is my co-founder. He's a tech and product guy. We work together at Builders VC. So it's a $200 million early stage fund split between Chicago and San Francisco. So we also acted as a startup studio. So once or twice a year, we'd spin up new companies and we'd always be testing different ideas. I don't think either of us ever intended to found a company together, but we would be noodling ideas and getting lunch like once a week at least and talking every morning about different approaches. And it just kind of happened that we were both passionate about this idea. He actually went to school for music. He's a self-taught programmer, and I've always been in podcasting. So it's just a natural fit. We have very complementary skill sets.
That's pretty cool. And I was interviewing another founder the other day, and he said the most important thing is having that vision for your project with your co-founder. I think that's I think that's an important thing because the last thing you want to do is get into a project and you're both going in different directions. You gotta stay aligned.
Mhm.
Super, super important. So, what about challenges? What's been the greatest challenge for you? You're building out kind of an innovative new idea, audio learning, right? Solely audio. What's been the biggest challenge for you throughout this process?
So it's a flywheel. So it's really hard to get these kind of marketplaces off the ground. So you need supply initially, and then you need demand, and then you mostly focus on demand going forward. And then as demand increases, you could do more payouts to the suppliers, to the rest of the marketplace. So just getting that, balancing both sides, and keeping pushing that forward has just been a lot of work. It's slowly starting to go out. It's slowly starting to grow. Like we're making much bigger payouts this month. I think our creator is going to be really happy. I think they're going to actually produce more courses for the platform, and it's starting to get moving.
That's really cool. So, do you would you think of like the way that a successful bar operates? It's we get the girls, we get the chicks, then the guys come and then they buy all the chicks drinks, right? It's kind of that same similar idea. So I'm kind of curious in this platform where it's about basically like create outside sources coming in to create the content. Do you think it's more important to bring the creators in or bring the clients in? Who's more important to your flywheel?
So initially, it's the supply, and we've had influencers reach out that we'll probably produce courses with, like celebrity-driven courses to some extent. But demand, I think everything is about just attention nowadays. If you control attention and demand, that's everything. So we're more focused on that now.
Very good. Very good. Okay. So we talked a lot about your business model, what you're doing, how you're building it up. Um, let's say that someone is interested in becoming a teacher or an instructor. How do they get in touch with you? How do they get onto your platform? What does the process look like, Colin?
So we have a great self-service portal built out. So avocadoaudio.com/teach, I believe, has all the information you could ever need there. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out either on Avocado or I'm really active on Twitter. So Colin Keeley on Twitter, and my DMs are open. Always happy to reply.
Awesome. Awesome. So, y'all definitely want to check out Colin and what he's building over at Avocado Audio. So, Colin, before I let you go, I want to go into a couple rapid fire questions here for you, if I may. All right. You ready? Fired up?
Awesome. Yeah.
All
Hmm.
right. Let's do it. So, what is a must have item that every business owner should have that costs less than 50 bucks? What should we have?
Okay. So these are actually really cheap. They're like 12 bucks. So orange goggles for sleep to block out blue light. So I think any business owner, you just end up staring at the screen way too late into the night and it really messes with your sleep. So you throw these on before you're, doing email or watching TV or whatever, an hour or two before bed. It makes a massive difference. And they're like $12 on Amazon.
Dig it. Dig it.
And they're really fashionable too.
There you go. There you go. I mean, like we have when your wife snaps a picture of you snoring or something, right? That's never happened to me, by the way. Never happened to me.
Yeah.
What is your favorite subscription right now, other than Avocado Audio?
Um, So I maybe like 6 months ago, I put a lot of effort into like organizing my second brain and getting my notes all in order. So I pay for this subscription called Readwise that connects my Instapaper, so like all my notes and my Kindle notes and everything, and it throws them into Evernote. So it's like a complicated connector, but Readwise is an awesome company.
Rock and roll. Right on. If you had a billboard message that could reach millions and millions of people, Colin, what are you going to put on your billboard?
So everyone kind of feels like they get what they deserve. I don't think that's right at all. I think they get what they ask for. So my billboard would be don't ask, don't get.
I like that a lot. I like that a lot. And y'all definitely want to check out Colin Keeley over on Twitter. He's got a lot of great anecdotes over there as well that you can appreciate. Colin, thank you so much for joining the show. I really appreciate your input, brother.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark.